Hello, and welcome back to the podcast where you are invited for lighthearted conversations about things that matter as you seek to live your most meaningful, beautiful, and joyful life. I'm your host, Dr. Edie Wadsworth, and I hope you enjoy your stay here at the House of Joy.
Hello, welcome back to the podcast.
Emmy, we're back.
We're Mama.
Together
Mama Jama.
on the House of Joy sofa.
Yes.
I'm so happy to be here with you.
I'm so happy to be here with you.
Yes, it's been a while since we recorded together, and I just couldn't be more excited.
I know, I'm really excited. I have to expose you because
You're always exposing me.
well, actually, it's kind of exposing myself too, because last week you did an episode with your BFF.
Jeannie Jet. Shout
Jeannie
out.
Jet.
If you haven't listened to that podcast, you guys go listen.
It's so fun. I feel like
It's
it's
so good.
unlike any episode we've done before because
It's just like
y'all
two friends
are just
chatting.
like so. Yeah, it's just two best friends having a chat on the couch
About things such as healing from trauma and
yes.
natural
And
health.
if you ever want to know more about our life before this
Before
one,
this. Before this season.
yes, I think it. Who said maybe it was Katie. Someone was like, "You've literally lived a million lives before
Yes.
this."
We really have.
Which is true. But what I was saying is I was not here when they filmed that episode, and Mom totally took over every role. She was the producer, she was the filmer, she was
I
the
was
sound
so
guy.
proud of myself too.
No,
and
you
then
should have been. It was really good. It was really good. I honestly it could have been so much worse.
Okay, fine. I did look at the video. It's wonky. I get it. I am a little more haphazard than you. Probably a lot more haphazard than you.
Yeah, I just am very
Emmy doesn't like
perfectionist.
it if everything isn't exactly symmetric. Like when you look at the shot in the camera, if y'all are watching on YouTube, she likes it to be, exactly the same distance apart. I mean, I get
It's
it. I
just,
looked at the one with
looks
Jeannie and I'm
better.
like, clearly I did that one. That's a little bit how I load the dishwasher,
yes.
as you remember from
We
last
did
night.
load the dishwasher last night. Actually, this is funny because I've totally got that trait from you.
You just throw it all in.
But
That's what the
I've
dishwasher's
gotten
for.
better because I live with Sydney, and she's very much loads the dishwasher in a correct way. It's the correct way that she does it, but I can't take the time to play Tetris with the
No,
dishwasher.
me either.
I can't
And
do
what's
it.
that meme? You either load the dishwasher like an IKEA engineer, or you load it like a squirrel on meth,
Yeah.
or a raccoon on meth,
You
or something
do
like that.
it-
Definitely
yeah.
the raccoon on meth.
100%. But
I'm
all
owning
that to
it.
say,
It's fine.
we're back in stew with Katie.
We're so happy.
Yeah,
She
it's
sends
a
you a
lot.
peace out.
It makes it a lot easier to do it this way.
And today we're really excited. We have an episode for you, which is so fun, all about finishing the year in a way that makes you feel proud of yourself, in the way that you use your gifts and serve your people. We were going to call it how to get back on track with your goals, but I know a lot of you don't even love that word. So we are going to break it down for you in a way I think that is going to inspire you, whether or not you even have goals or love goals or whatever.
My goal, not really, but just I
Your
want to get
quote-unquote
to
goal?
the new year and feel like I've already been doing the things I said I was going to do.
Yes.
I want to get there and be like, I'm just going to keep going because I've been doing
Yes.
so good.
And I think a lot of times what we do this time of year is we kind of a little bit go into subconscious or unconscious mode where we're just trying to get by. It feels like life is coming too fast. We can't really be present. We can't have intention. We can't stay aware of what we're doing.
Wait,
and we
I have
go,
a funny story about living unconsciously.
yes.
Because actually it's so funny. I have been dipping into that mode a little bit.
Yeah,
I've been
it's
doing
easy to do.
so good, but it is, especially when you are accomplishing things you want to, it is so easy to just kind of slip into this
You
not
just
even
go
aware.
unconscious.
Yeah, like you're not aware of like all the little things.
Yeah.
And the other morning I was going to Pilates at like 6:30.
Oh, she's going to tell the story. She's going to out herself.
I'm so outing myself right now. But
Which resulted in me getting a phone call at 6:41.
Yeah. I was in the car at like 6:20 and I was so in that unconscious like, you know, go, go, go. It was early. I actually woke up that morning feeling so energetic. I was like, what's going on? Like, I'm ready to go. So I get up, I get dressed. I'm like out the door, very much just let's keep going, let's keep going. And I get in my car, just not a thought in the world. And my roommate's car was right next to me in black.
Yeah.
And it was pitch black because, you know, daylight savings or whatever.
Thank you, daylight
But
savings.
I ended up totally ramming into my roommate, Kylie's car.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Literally just, and I knew it like wakes you up right in that moment. You're like, I was not even in this world when that happened. And it's not even that big of a deal. Like, it's all good. We've got it all figured out.
Talk to the insurance. It's all fine. This is why you have insurance. I tried to tell Em. I said, I've done this before. I can't even remember, but I've done this maybe once or twice before. And
it's funny because I really haven't ever. I've definitely, you know, gotten a little dinged up before, but it's never been my fault.
Yeah.
And anyway, I knew she wasn't going to wake up for at least 30 minutes, and I didn't want to. It's already bad enough for your car to be like dinged up, and it's
now
worse
you gotta get up
to be woken up an hour earlier and just sit there thinking about how your car is dinged up. So I was like, no, I'm just gonna still go to Pilates. So I like was panicked, drove out of the driveway, got halfway to Pilates, started sobbing, crying because I just was like, I think it all came out at that point, and I called Mom. And anyway, that was a moment where I was truly, you know, you have to be woken up, awake, out of,
however you want to say it,
a stoop of like subconscious, unconscious living.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And I do think that no wonder we do it, y'all, because life can be hard and challenging. And you know, sometimes I think most of the time the reason we do that is because we have these difficult emotions that we don't want to process, deal with. And it just becomes so much easier to just start living up in your head. You kind of disconnect yourself from your body. But what happens when you do that is then you kind of do everything unconscious, the way you eat, the way you take care of yourself, the way you connect with yourself, the way you connect with other people. And I just know from my own life that I still get into periods of time where I do that, but I just have learned to recover faster, to realize like, oh, I've just been in survival mode. I've just been basically disconnected from myself, disconnected from my body, not paying attention to how what I'm eating makes me feel or how I'm moving makes me feel, or, you know, the goals that I have for myself feel hard. So then I choose some way to escape it with false pleasure, like all of those things. So that's kind of what we're going to talk about today, so that you can get yourself back with yourself, connected with yourself, living from your true self.
Yes.
Remembering why you said you wanted to do a certain thing or live a certain way, and getting back to that so that you head into the new year, just like what you're saying.
Feeling refreshed.
Like, I feel ready and refreshed, and I'm not so stressed and worn out and all of that. So I think a lot of people think, like, if we just put at the title, get back on track with your goals, I think what a lot of people imagine is that we mean like, come on, push.
Yes,
you
like,
know, like
get
that
to the
kind of thing.
finish line.
And that's not what we're talking about, but we're just talking about reconnecting with what you really want. And I would say that of all the women that I help, the thing they say is, I don't know what I want. And that is a real common thing to say when you're not very connected to yourself.
Yeah, it's hard to know what you're pursuing when you don't feel like you even are who you want to be.
Yeah.
You know, you don't know what you want. You don't know what your highest self. We talk about that a lot in your program. Like,
And we just talked about this. I did a podcast on this on Tuesday about like how to know you're living from your ego. So that would be a great one to go back and reference.
Yes.
Because a lot of times when you are living from your ego, you don't even set goals because you're just living small. You're living from a story that's not really true about who you are, about what's possible for you. You're not really living in hope and love and gratitude for the gifts that you've been given. And my goal is always to help women get back to that, to rewrite the stories they have for themselves that keep them stuck, that keep them small, that keep them thinking they don't know what they really want. Because I do believe that when we wake up to the amazing miracle that this life is, we want to stay awake to it, even in the pain. Even in the pain, we feel alive, we feel awake. And that is really the goal of having goals, is it kind of gives us something higher to aim for so that we can really live out our potential, so that all the stuff that God gave us that's so unique to us, we can really get that out in the world and serve in this unique way that we've been called to serve, whether that's, what you're doing in your own home to take care of your family, whether that's, in a certain job you have, in a relationship that you have. I just think that living with more intention, that's really the goal for me, is to teach women to live with more intention and more awareness so that we can, spend ourselves for a good cause.
It's interesting. You had a coaching event for all of your certified coaches in your program.
Yeah,
a couple weeks ago, and I told Mom that like after that weekend, I totally felt so inspired and alive. And I think a big part of it is because I've been getting coaching. And you said like I seriously, and this sounds dramatic until you think it's dramatic until you experience kind of waking up to who you really are and how you experience your life.
Yeah.
But I totally feel like a different person starting coaching. And not because who I am is different, but I just see myself differently.
You're more aware.
I'm more aware of who I am and what I tell myself and all of these things that are ruling my everyday life.
Yes.
And when you know your thoughts and when you start to realize like, oh, and someone else, it kind of takes someone else to mirror it
back to you.
You. And it's just so crazy because this coaching that I've been doing only for like a month, I totally feel this weight lifted off of me, like just awareness of myself and knowing I'm in control of how I experience. But I think it's really cool. I was thinking about this with the podcast that we have. Like you can kind of use it as a tool to wake up to who you are.
Yes.
And like how cool that could be for other people, that you don't have to just stay in the misery or just whatever you're feeling. Yeah. You don't have to stay in that.
Right.
And that's the only way. It's funny because I was telling Sydney, like, it feels like these things that used to feel so hard to do, or my goals.
Right.
It felt like I was just pretending to do them and to
I
really
wanted
care
to talk about this too, because I do feel like the identity piece is so important. Because if you just set for yourself goals or intentions and you just try to do the right thing there without having the identity piece of believing who you really are in Christ, who God has made you to be, what he's called you to do, like what is the unique thing that he's called you to do that nobody else could do quite like you. And when you start to see yourself in that light, you can live that out without it feeling like you're striving, without it feeling so hard, without it feeling like
I'm faking this. I don't actually. Yeah, I always felt like, okay, I'll write down my 90-day goal or whatever, and it just felt so fake. It felt like every effort
I'm just trying to make something up. Yeah.
Yes, like every effort I put into it was like half, and I didn't even really care if I got to the end of it because it didn't even feel that connected to what I really want anyway.
Yep.
And it's just so funny being more attuned and aware to myself.
Yeah.
How it doesn't even feel like goals anymore. It just feels like you are working towards who you're meant to be.
Yeah. And it's kind of like, I mean, really, I feel like in so many ways, the goal of my whole program, Life Mentoring School, is to help women go from living in their ego, their false self, to really stepping into their identity as this crown of creation, this daughter of Christ that has been given this unique set of gifts to go and serve the world, to go and change generations, like that sort of big picture of the story that does feel so motivating. But then when we get into our everyday life, it's so easy to forget that. It's so easy to just go back to living problem to problem to problem to problem. And when you live your life that way, instead of, you know, taking a minute to be aware, to set an intention, to see your life from this sort of 10,000 foot level that God sees it from, it's just so easy to get stuck in these ruts where everything feels heavy, everything feels like a problem, everything feels like it's hard, and there is a better way. And, you know, whether you follow our system of doing it or not, figure out a way for you to stay awake to your life. And one of the things that has really helped me, because I don't have a very long attention span. So when I first started to do this, I would be like, oh, I'm going to set all these resolutions, all these New Year's, you know, I'd always wait to the new year. These goals, these big, you know, overarching goals. But then I would peter out. I would forget. I would lose interest. And so when I started doing this whole 90 days at a time, it felt doable to me, and it kind of kept me on track. And it was easier for me to get back on track when I got off track.
Yeah.
And remembering that the big picture is not even the goal. It's not, okay, is my life going to be so much dramatically better if I lose 10 pounds, or if I finish this book I've been working on, or if I save the money that I've been wanting to save? Maybe or maybe not. But what will be different is you will be different, because you will learn how to stay connected to your life, connected to yourself, really connected to what you know is God's mission for you, connected to the people in your life. And it's just so much more fun to live life that way.
It is so funny you mentioned that, because I'll share what my 90-day goal, my big 90-day goal was, and that would end like literally at the end of December.
Yeah.
Was to lose 10 pounds. And really, like, it's just so funny, because that, when I first set that goal, it felt like, well, that's like literally impossible. And it almost makes you feel like already down when you set something like that.
Yeah.
But now that my mindset has kind of shifted, and I do feel a lot more like awake to myself, like I write down on my planner every day, lose 10 pounds, lose 10 pounds. I write that down as my 90-day goal every day. But I don't even really care anymore if that actually happens.
Yeah.
Like if I actually see that on the scale or whatever.
Yeah.
Because I know that I have made so much progress.
Yeah. Staying connected and figuring out. I think the other thing that's really powerful is your why. And like for me, when I think of health goals, I'm always thinking of the grandbabies. I had them last Friday. I go to their house every Friday. It's like Christmas every Friday. I love it so much. Little baby Noah has learned how to give kisses.
He goes
like a fish. Like, but we went to the park, and I can really do all the fun stuff that I want to do with them at the park. So when I, drug myself to the gym this morning, in the back of my mind, it's not so much like, I know it's important to build muscle, and I love taking care of myself. Like, it's for a lot of reasons, but always in the back of my mind is, I want to be able to stay active. I want to be able to do whatever they're doing. When they're 9 and 10 years old, I want Grammy to still be able to wake surf with them. I want to be able to hike, mountains with them. Like, I think of like the big picture for me, and that really keeps me motivated and connected to what I really want for myself ultimately versus what I want for myself right now. And one of the ways that I think is powerful to do that is to decide what is your identity in that. I want to be a person who is strong and fit.
Yes.
And we can have a story about ourselves of, well, I'm never going to be that way. I've always struggled with my health. I've always struggled with my weight. So you have to rewrite that identity. You have to decide what do you really believe is possible for you, And are you willing to do the work that it takes? Because it takes some work to rewrite a story like that.
Something I've found out too, like that is definitely something I have a goal of, like wanting to be a person that's strong and healthy and fit and feels good about themselves.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting because when you're not taking action for any of that, so like when I feel like I'm not doing as much as I should or as much as I want, that's all I can think about is wanting to be a person who's strong and fit.
Yeah.
But when I'm taking action, like going on long walks or going to Pilates, I do that, and then I don't really think about that thought anymore because I've already taken an action for it.
Yes.
And so it's really funny how your brain does that. Like when you're not doing something to the potential that you probably could in any goal, that's all your brain can focus on is how, oh, I wish I could be that. Yes. Instead, when you're really doing those things, you don't think about it as much.
Yeah, and like at times when I've been working on health goals, I practice the belief I'm fit and strong. I'm resilient or whatever I'm practicing. But you're right, that leads to taking this action, and what you're hoping over time is that you do make that part of what you just do automatically. Yes. And I can tell times when like I slip out of that, and I can feel like, oh, this is how I used to feel 10 years ago. I used to feel out of shape. I used to feel lazy. I used to feel whatever. And I'm so not used to feeling that now because I've practiced the thought and the actions for so long. But I really think that often the key piece to so much of it is to be willing to feel the negative emotion that comes up when you don't want to do something, when you're not feeling motivated, when you're disappointed in yourself, when you do slip back into like your old ways. And I think one of the keys is to really be willing to process the emotion that you have, work through that, acknowledge it.
That's so interesting really because I totally like feel like that's me most of the time whenever I don't do something that I wanted to do. Like I end up, instead of feeling like, oh, I wish I would have done that, I make excuses in my head for why I didn't so that I don't have to feel the disappointment for myself. So instead of being like, oh, I probably had time to go do that. Instead I'm like, well, I didn't have any time. Like I was whatever. I'll make excuses to make myself feel better, but it doesn't make me feel better. It's lying to myself because
and literally, like I think one of the major things when you're learning to live as your true self is you're learning to tell the truth. And you're learning to tell the truth to yourself without shaming yourself. So you say to yourself like, oh yeah, for the last week or for the last year or whatever, oh, I see what I've been doing. I've been believing this lie that I was never going to whatever. Like it's usually living in an ego, a false identity, something that is not the best and highest that God has for us, but being willing to tell the truth and say like, oh yeah, but not shaming ourselves, but going, oh, I understand why I likely did that. And from love and from this place of really wanting to express my fullest potential in the world, here's what I know God believes about me. And I'm going to adopt that belief and live from that instead of living from a false story that it's never going to happen for me. I'm never going to get healthy. I'm never going to whatever. And I do think that really is the key to, when I say staying on track, I just mean really learning to live as your true self.
Yes.
As the person who lives not from ego, but from love, as the person who has a high aim, high expectations for yourself, but so much grace for yourself when you don't show up the way you want, so that you can tell the truth
and go on.
Yes. And get back on track.
The more that you deny the truth about a situation, the longer you stay in it, because then it becomes harder and harder to, it's like any lie. Like if you were to lie about anything to anyone, the longer you keep that story going, the harder it is to back yourself out of it, because now you've created this whole big story. And it is so interesting. Like, I've never thought of it that way necessarily, that me lying to myself, it just feels better in the moment.
Yeah.
To make yourself feel better about.
Well, because you know you're going to shame yourself and be mean to yourself if you tell the truth. So what you have to learn how to do is tell the truth without the shame.
Yep.
And just acknowledging, like, of course, it was easy to fall into that. And that's not what I really want for myself ultimately. And so I'm going to have a lot of grace, and I'm going to forgive myself, and, you know, I'm going to step right back into what I know is God's best for me. It's funny because this year, one of my goals, several different quarters, was to write a book. You know, I've been really feeling this, like, need, desire, want to get a lot of my ideas out on paper. A lot of them are in videos in my program, which is great, but I wanted to get it down on paper, like more like legacy content where, you know, it could help more people. You know, it would be there in case something happened to me. It's all in, you know, an easy, digestible place. And it's funny because one of the stories that I was believing is like, and I tell people all the time that they shouldn't, you know, believe this lie, but in my mind, I was believing, like, I've already had I've already done that. Maybe there's no more, maybe I'm not going to have those creative ideas anymore. Maybe I'm not going to be able to create that anymore.
Yeah.
And I was kind of believing that like, you know, maybe my best days, as
I
far
already
as that
said
go,
this all, so I don't need to. Yeah.
And it's interesting because once I got myself kind of back into, like, really believing the truth that, listen, this is true for me, it's true for you. Your best days are ahead if you believe it. And anything is possible for you that you truly desire from this place of, I really just want to live out my full potential, give my gifts away, serve the people I'm called to serve. And as soon as I got back into that, I created this little book in 2 weeks.
Oh my gosh,
I know. Design Your Life 90 Days at a Time. I'm still working on the edits for it, but I got the first draft of it done in a couple of weeks. I'm actually teaching this class next week, so we'll put the link for you in the show notes, but I'm teaching a free class on it next week called Design Your Life, Live Your Purpose, Design Your Life 90 Days at a Time. And we're going to talk all about the stuff we're talking about now, because I do feel like, especially at my phase of life, it's not maybe quite as common at your age, but I do think there are a lot of girls your age who are struggling with that too. Like, what am I here for? What am I supposed to be doing?
I most definitely think that most people my age have those feelings.
Yeah. It's a lie that we believe, that it's so unknowable, or it's something that's so hard to figure out.
And I think it's really easy at my age to compare what other people are doing. And then that even more blocks you from, like, to truly knowing what your own purpose is.
Yes.
Because so many people are doing so many different things.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's definitely hard at my age. I mean, even now, it's like, no matter what I'm doing, there's always a chance for that thought to creep in.
Yeah.
Am I doing the right thing? Like, should I choose something else? But I will say, like, it always takes me back to coaching, and I literally just started coaching, so I think I'm just having so many revelations about how good it is for me. And it really is nothing more than what you have talked about, which is just, like, almost just showing all of yourself to somebody, like the truth about what you feel and where it comes from, and letting that out. And
usually you find that a lot of it comes from lies that aren't even true,
right? And my coach, like, she always is so gracious, and it almost teaches you to have that same grace for yourself.
Yeah.
And it does change everything. It changes the way when you, and we talked about that, you talked about this at your event, and it's so true. It's, like, stuck with me so much. But true confession is really the only way to move forward.
Yeah.
With, like, you know that you're loved, and you know that no matter what you admit to, no matter what the truth is in your heart, like, you are still loved.
Yes.
And that truth really is so powerful when
it
you
really does set you free.
when you actually let it all out. Because I feel like even, it's funny because I was thinking about, me and Katie were talking about like confession in church, and they give you silent time at our church.
Yeah.
And every time I feel like I'm like scrambling to like,
okay, what?
I'm like, okay, I think I did this and I think I did this and I don't know. And it's funny because like we were talking about that, and it's just funny that like you can't even think about what you would confess to because there's so much that we have that we don't say.
Yeah.
And it feels so scary. Like you don't even really want to admit it to yourself. Like that was the point I was trying to make of confession too. It's like you kind of don't even want to say it in your head.
Right.
Like what you would confess to or what.
And we talked about this a little bit there, but the other thing that I love to think about, because we always think about the things we did wrong instead of what's driving that. The beliefs that we have that are lies.
Yes.
About ourselves, about other people. And once you get that in its proper place, then the doing just follows naturally from that. But it's very hard to just keep doing the right things when you consistently have the wrong beliefs about yourself.
Like what you said earlier, like you can't truly tell the truth from your ego.
Right.
Because it's protecting you.
It's protecting you.
Like it's protecting you from facing it. That's why your ego comes out, because it doesn't want you to show who you really are. It doesn't want you to admit to being embarrassed or like scared or fearful. It wants to keep you inside.
Yes.
So there's no way to get your truth out from that place.
Yeah.
Because there will always be some sort of block.
Yes.
And I think that's the biggest thing that I've learned in the past couple months is like vulnerability, whether it's to other people or just really to yourself, it literally changes everything.
Yep.
And it is so cool that we're at this place in the year that we're at before New Year's and feeling like you have this pressure to do all these things and change all these things. Like you literally can change that right now.
Yeah.
And you will have all of this free space to actually figure out what you want and how you want to do it.
Yeah. And when so much of your like mental and emotional bandwidth is taken up by all of these, negative beliefs, lies that bring a lot of negative emotion, a lot of heaviness. So then it feels like there's no space for dreaming. There's no space for figuring out what I really want. There's no space in there for, what I want to really be creating in the world. Like when I think of, and this is kind of the outline that we have for our program, but when I think of true self, I think of our 4 major quarters. The first one is you commit to growth. So you have space in your life to think, where do I want to grow?
Yeah.
Where do I see myself as holding myself back? And then you really connect to God, to yourself, to other people. Like when you're living as your true self, connection is so important. And then our third one is create. You're in creative mode. What can I create? What rhythms can I create in my life? What can I create with my resources? What can I create in my home? It frees you up to be in this space of connecting, creating, growth, and then contribution. Like what can I contribute? So if that sounds foreign, it's probably because you're so bogged down with all of these lies, these negative beliefs that lead to a lot of negative emotion that kind of keep you stuck. And then you shame yourself for that. It's very hard to get out of it when you're in shame. Shame just wants to hide. Mm-hmm. So then your ego just, spins and you're in shame and you're not feeling free and you're not feeling light and you're not operating really in the way that you were ultimately designed to operate. So our goal is to inch you back there, to give you freedom to go back there, to help you release the shame that keeps you stuck so that you can get back to operating really the way you were created, in growth and resilience and connection and creation and contribution.
Yeah, it's totally made me also feel way more connected to the people in my life, maybe not even to them, but for me. Like, I just feel like I have so much more of myself to give.
Yeah.
And so much more to do. I have so much more capacity. I love thinking of it in that way
Yes.
too. Like,
Yeah,
I
it frees up
truly
a lot of space
feel like
in your heart.
it just doesn't feel as hard to get these non-negotiables done.
Yeah.
To have the space.
Yeah.
To do more. And yeah, it's totally can transform. I also think a part of why it's hard in this time before the new year to get stuff done is like the holidays and all of these things that like are happening all at once.
Yeah.
But when you don't rely on anyone else to tell you the truth about yourself, and you don't have any of that, like, it's just so much easier to live and not be affected by all the outward things that are always going to be there in life. You know?
And then you have space to ask yourself, like, oh, what do I want to create this holiday season? You know, pick a few things. What do I really want to create in my home? You know, what do I want to create for these special holidays? How do I want to connect with people? It's funny because I have been in the last couple of days very tender. I'm trying to figure out why, but I think it's just because I have been very aware. And when you're living very aware, it's like you're really
tender
probably, to be honest, it's probably like coming off the election. And I think everybody's got a collective sigh. Okay, well, at least now that part is over. And I guess still seeing like some of the, you know, fighting and stuff between people, it just makes me want to truly connect in powerful ways with the people I love.
Yep.
And I sent a random string of texts this morning, really just loving and connecting with people that I love.
Yeah.
And having space for that. You know how when you're consumed with everything's wrong and you're living by your problems and all of that, you don't have that freed up space to go, oh, how can I reach out? How can I connect? What do I want to create today?
Yep.
How do I want to contribute, you know, in a meaningful way? And I do think that's where, like, a system like we have, the 90 days at a time system, can really support you in such a meaningful way to help you get back on track, to help you go, oh yeah, that's what the point of this all is. Like, oh yeah, I do want to stay connected to myself. Oh yeah, I do want to remember who I am and what I'm called to do, like really all the important things. And it's such a great time to do it now. You're so right. Don't wait till the first of the year, because you're going to have the chance in the next couple of months to just in such powerful ways
and think about
connect.
how much you can get done in the new year.
Yeah.
If you're free.
Yeah.
If you have let go of all these, you know, negative lies that you tell yourself all the time.
Yeah.
There's so much more to do. And it's so funny because I used to really, really relate to when you said, like, people just don't even know what they want. Like, I mean, I still to a degree don't think I know exactly what I want, but I have come a lot farther along.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel as daunting to me anymore to have big dreams.
Yeah.
And just feel empowered to go after them. And it's funny because, like, I do feel like I know what I would want a goal to be.
Yeah.
It's easier for me to come up with them because it's not as daunting. And yeah, you can literally create that for yourself. It's not always so easy. Like, I think sometimes I'll leave my coaching sessions, or there was a couple times where I was like, okay, well, I do want to work on that. Like, I don't want to believe that. But once you're aware of it, it is so much easier to notice it in where you're doing it.
Yeah.
And I think, like, journaling, it's like, it sounds so simple, but that's a great way where you feel safety to say
what's really on your heart.
What's really on your heart. And then reading it back, I think sometimes is even as powerful as coaching. Like, reading your own words back and what you think about yourself and what you think about situations can sometimes show you, like, why am I thinking that way? That's not really true. you know, really examining, like, if what you are thinking is true.
Yes. And deciding on purpose, I think too, like, what is the experience that you want to have of your own life in the next 2 months, 6 weeks, through the end of the year? Now, a lot of times we think to ourselves, well, I'm not in charge of that because look what's happening here and around me and in my life and in my job and in my marriage. But I want you to ask yourself, because there's so much you do have control over. The part that I do have control over, what do I want to experience? How do I want to feel on the Saturday after Thanksgiving? I want to have come off of that weekend feeling so connected, feeling so creative, feeling like, oh, that was just the best. I really poured myself into my people, and and for you, like whatever that would look like. But really asking yourself, what do you want your experience of your own life to be? You're always in charge of that, no matter what's going on around you, who's president, what's happening in the world. You get to decide. Am I going to focus on hope and love and possibility and dreams and connection and growth and creation? Like, are those the things that I'm going to focus on? Or am I going to stay in this place where I'm continually focusing on everything that's wrong? Because listen, for all of us, there's plenty there if you want that to be your focus. But if you believe the scriptures when they say you become what you think about, then you have to ask yourself, is that what I really want to become?
Oh my gosh. Carrie my coach, gave me this. She's going to hate me because I just steal what she says to me and I just share it with everyone.
She doesn't mind at all.
But she got this from, I think, someone in coaching world. Okay. Yeah. But when you're having a thought or you're having a feeling and it's clearly like making you feel differently, like it's changing your experience of your day, or it's changing your experience of someone else, or it's changing the experience of like going on a walk or anything that you want to do in your life, stopping and asking yourself, is this true?
Yeah.
And you might say yes. Okay, well, is it 100% true all the time? Probably you're going to say no. And then is the opposite true? So the opposite of that feeling or thought, can the opposite be true?
Yeah.
You're probably going to say yes.
Yeah.
And then if you say no, well, is it the serving me?
Yes. That's my favorite one, because even if it's true, this is how I ended up working through all the trauma from my past. I thought it's true that it happened, so I can't move past it because it's true. Well, the thing of it is it serving me to continue focusing on it, to continue reliving it, to continue believing it, to continue, stewing in it? And what I figured out for myself is, even if it's true, it's not serving me. That thing happened to me one time, and I keep abusing myself with the story over and over and over and over. And I can decide that that is not the experience that I want to create in my life right now. And so we all have that power to do that. And if you ask yourself, okay, God created me. He loves me. He cherishes me. He put me in this world for such a specific reason, with these unique set of skills and gifts and way of seeing the world. And if I continue believing this thing or focusing on this thing that I'm focusing on, is that going to leave room for the expression of all those unique gifts that he's given me? And I just decided, like, it was such an epiphany for me. I'm like, oh my word, I don't have to keep living by that.
I don't have to hold on to this.
I don't have to hold on to that.
And I don't have to believe it. I can decide what I think.
Like, this is the experience of life that I want to create for myself and for the people around me. And it is so liberating to do that. So whether you feel like, I'm a person who has very specific goals and, I stay on track all the time, even then I would ask yourself, like, what's behind that? Ego could be driving that. Mm-hmm. So,
and at some point, that will drive you to...
I spent my first 45 years living like that, achieving, but mostly in my ego to prove that I was worthy, that, I was good enough, that I was loved. And so if we just let God settle that question, you're loved, you're enough, you're worthy, He will fill in all the gaps where you're not, where of course we all have sin. We all have areas, and just believing that we're his beloved. If that is settled now, from freedom, from love, from playfulness, what do I want to do? Like, what's possible?
I love it.
It feels so fun.
It does. And I'm excited to keep figuring it out for myself. And it does make you I used to really feel like dread when I thought about New Year, because it's like, oh, like, I know I'm not even going to do any of these things that I feel like I want to. But I do really feel so much more excited now. And it couldn't have come at a better time for me, especially with Haddon being gone. Like, I'm so glad that I'm being truthful and honest with myself and have that resource, because it does make things so much more light.
Yeah.
Not easier necessarily, because it's really hard that he's gone, and it's really hard to have to do all these things and just keep going. But it does make it feel so much more light. Like, I can fall off and I can just, it doesn't have to be the end of the world.
Yeah.
And I can still just keep going.
Yeah. And, for me, like, I look at these next, 6 weeks. I love the holidays so much. Mm-hmm. It's like my Super Bowl. I'm already thinking about, okay, what am I going to start baking ahead of time? And, what's my table scape going to look like? And, what do I want the experience to look like? What can I'm always, especially this time of year, thinking like that. And one of the beliefs that I practice is that I create magical experiences for myself and for other people. And when I believe that, and when I operate from that, it makes me so look forward to it, because I can remember a time when I was like, oh my gosh, there's so much work to be done in the next however long.
Yeah, like dreading, kind of.
Yeah, where you get into this kind of like, dreading. Instead of like, what kind of amazing experiences do I want to create in the world in the next few weeks, given these opportunities that I've been given these amazing people that I get to do life with. And so that, and while at the same time going, and how can I create these routines where I take really good care of myself too? So I know for a fact this time of year, I will be walking more. I will be, making sure that I'm taking time to fill out my planner, to journal more, like all the ways that I can take good care of myself, so that from a place of abundance and love and joy, I can do the other things that I love to do, you know, without feeling like you get to the end of it and you're disappointed with yourself because you let yourself go, or you didn't do, whatever, or, you get to the end of it and feel burnt out. I've done that many times too. And I think the last few years I've just learned a better way, where you just stay awake, stay intentional, be willing to be with yourself, stay connected to yourself, asking yourself, what's the experience I have when I believe this thing, do this thing, eat this way, move this way, connect this way? And then what do I want to intentionally create? And I think that it will give you a beautiful next 6 weeks through the end of the year. And then what a great start to 2025.
Yes. It's going to be so good. And I can't wait to see and experience all of the holiday magic.
I know. I talked to Ellie this morning, and she sent us a text the other day, and she goes, you girls better get your knitting.
I've been working on it.
You better get your knitting ready, because we are going to be...
I've been a crocheting machine. It's actually kind of sad. No, it's not. It's not sad. But it is a little bit like, I basically every night of the week and weekend, for the most part, get in bed as soon as I possibly can and crochet every night. Yeah.
Well, I can't wait to see your project. I can't wait to see her sweater. She said she's got the body done of her sweater.
I don't know how she goes so fast.
I know. I said, Ellie, how are you going so fast?
Yeah, I don't understand. I feel like it's all I do, and I am not very far.
I know. So anyways, I'm really, really excited about that. But yeah, it's going to be a great season. So just decide for yourself, ask yourself, what could I believe about myself in the, next few weeks that really helps me align with the true identity, my true self.
Yes.
And then what are the actions that from that true self, what are the actions that I want to be taking to give me the experience I want. So for
Yes,
me,
I
that's going
love
to be
it.
a lot of knitting, girls.
Yeah, crocheting, a lot of walking.
Walking.
You know, same old, same old.
I know.
We decided this week that we were going to do just a shared.
A combined few
favorite.
things. I think I have 2. How many do you have?
I have one right now, but
Okay.
like, maybe
Great.
we'll see.
Okay.
My first one, actually, no, you go first.
Okay. Girls, wait, let me have my glasses so I can tell you this. If you're watching on YouTube, I'm going to hold this up for you. Okay. We went
This is actually a shared one.
This is a shared
I have
one.
this.
You do have this. We went to Sephora. I was playing in there like a kid in a candy store.
We were having so much fun.
We were having so much fun. And this is probably toxic, but you just got to pick your toxins. Okay, this is called Too Faced Lip Injection Lip Gloss. Now, here's what you do. Here's what I do. I put this on while I'm getting ready in the morning.
Okay.
Well, first of all, when I put this on in the store, you and Katie...
No, I mean, let me just set the scene. She's like a kid in a candy shop for sure. And me and Katie were actually finding the things that we like knew
actually
we already needed.
Yeah.
And then we walk over to Mom and legit, like, her lips looked like she had just gotten lip injections. And I'm not kidding.
They
Like,
sure did.
I've used like lip plumpers before, but it was different and it looked so good. And so we all bought it. We literally all bought it. I think I have a different color than you.
Yeah. I don't
Yours
know.
is a little bit-
See, can
wait,
you
let me
read what
see.
my color is? But here's what I do. I put the gloss on when I'm getting ready and let them get all plumpy. And then I put my chubby
Your
stick
normal.
on over top that.
This is the
I
shade.
literally left this morning going, I look like I've had lip injections.
No, I know. This is the shade Pretty Pony. I have a different color,
Okay.
but they're both equally pretty good.
Yeah.
I think I have a different color. I'm actually really not sure, but
So
they are like magic, and truly, there is some sort of like
I mean, it's
allergy.
a little burny. Like you get the little. Emmy goes, "Is this just full of allergens?" I'm like, "We don't want to know. It's probably cayenne pepper."
like it's giving me
knows?
like an actual
little
allergic
tingly.
reaction.
Yeah.
We were at that coaching event, and I like slipped and like knocked it.
Got it on your.
And it was like full on like red. So it's like not probably that good, but it feels kind of good. I like the feeling of it. But
get
yeah, it
yourself
works.
some.
It works magic. Another thing actually that I got when we were at that Sephora is it's called the Fairy Duster Dry Shampoo. And let me just, if you guys are on YouTube, let me just give you a demonstration. Have you seen how this works? Watch.
Oh wow!
This is also
We're in now a cloud of smoke.
Also,
It's
it
like we
smells
have
so good.
a cloud machine right now.
Sorry. This is
A
the
smoke
best
machine.
a cloud machine. This is the best dry shampoo I have genuinely ever used. It like, you know how some dry shampoo, it just makes your head feel gross, more gross. Like maybe it helps the look a little bit, but it also doesn't even last that long. I just find that most dry shampoo doesn't even really do what I want it to do anyway, so I might as well wash my hair. This, like, genuinely, I have greasy, like, my hair gets really greasy up at the top, and I try to, like, make my clean hair last as long as I can. This is a game changer.
Wow.
It is expensive.
What's the brand? Chloe?
Day.
No. Oh, Day. Oh,
It's Amber, you know, Amber Filler Up? Amber Filler.
Yes.
Her
It's
brand.
hers?
Mhm.
Oh, I did not know this.
Yep.
Very cool.
But truly, like, it's $30. But
For that size.
for this size.
Okay.
It's expensive, but like it's genuinely the best stuff I've ever used. If you have
Wow.
greasy hair, you
All
just
the greasy hair girls.
you just put a couple sprays in there and it smells so good. Anyway, I have been really loving this, and I think that it's worth the hype. Worth
love
the
it.
money.
Okay, number 3. I don't know if we have a fourth, but I will share with you. My dear friend and CrossFit coach, Galen, shared with me this artist, Steven. What's his name? No. Oh, Steven.
Yeah, Mom was
Wilson
trying to sabotage me
Jr..
this morning. She sent me a song by this guy. I haven't even listened to it because I know she like sent it and she was like, "This is Dad and Marcus with a cry face and a heart," and I was like, "No, I'm not doing that this morning." Because
No, I'm not going with you down your little cry
I'm
fest.
not joining you there, but I I'm sure
You
it's
have to
good.
listen
I
to
do
it
need to listen
after
to
we
it.
get
I
through
just was like, I
recording.
can't be crying before this episode.
No, but this guy is an insanely good songwriter. Do you know when you hear lyrics that pierce your heart so deeply, like you know that there is just some universal truth that is piercing your heart. This is what his lyrics are like. His voice,
excited.
by the way, let me see if I can describe it. It's like Waylon Jennings
Oh my gosh.
and Eddie Vedder. Galen told me that. I'm like, yes, it's like Eddie Vedder. Waylon Jennings, Eddie Vedder, maybe a hint of Creed from the 90s mixed in together. Scott Stapp. Like, there's something about his voice that I hear in this guy. If they all had a baby and wrote a song, I am telling you, I haven't listened to anything that gripped me like this since the first time that I found maybe Sturgill Simpson or Tyler Childers. But I think he might be better than both. I don't know. But this guy is insane.
I'm really
this song
excited.
is called Father's Son, and he does it with Hardy, which we know how I feel about Hardy.
No, I don't know. Do the people know how you feel about Hardy?
Listen, when we went to the Morgan Wallen concert, I'm like, okay, I do like a couple Hardy songs, but he needs to clean up his language.
It was really intense. Like, he was coming
intense.
out full F words, like, the whole time. And Mom, like,
cannot abide.
almost probably had a heart attack.
I
but
cannot abide with the frequent F-bombs. But anyways, I do love some of Hardy's songs, though. And I've seen him in interviews. I love him, but come on, clean it up. We love you, but clean it up.
he has, like, the certain style that looks like he lives in his parents' basement.
I do think that's why I love him so much. Like, I connect with him on a visceral level because we probably had similar childhoods. So,
Maybe.
if I could have a couple sessions with him, we could heal that trauma right up. Then the problem is, then their songwriting goes.
Yeah, no, these people kind
Kaput.
of need their trauma
They need their
for
trauma.
a little bit.
I mean, if you listen, I agree with this because if you've read my writing when I was still living in my trauma, it was
Yeah, it was, like,
deep
incredible.
cutting. Now I can't write worth a flip. I'm all healed up.
You're, like, writing love poems and...
But anyways, please go listen. Stephen, what did I say? Wilson Jr.
Father, son.
Father, son. Okay. Love y'all.
Okay.
And one more thing.
Okay.
Do you have one more thing?
No, I don't.
Okay. My last thing is we would love to see you at this workshop next week. Free workshop. We will help you. We will talk about these things, how to really get yourself back on track through the end of the year. It's called Design Your Life 90 Days at a Time. It's going to be epic.
Yes, if you listen to
Next
this
Wednesday.
episode and you are thinking to yourself,
Yeah, I
well,
need
it's
some
so
of
nice
that.
that they have all this, like, stuff that they can do. And no, it's
We're going to
free.
teach it to you. Yeah.
Right?
Free.
It is
Next
free.
Wednesday, ediewadsworthcoaching.com/90 days. The link will be in the show notes. We also want to say a huge thank you to you guys when you share the podcast, when you leave a review. We read them all. We usually end up teary-eyed over
Yeah,
them.
they're so kind.
Thank you. If it has helped you in any way, it really helps us if you leave a review. So if you haven't done that yet, please go do that.
Also, I think we're going to be planning a pretty big Christmassy / 1 year giveaway at some point for the podcast. So make sure you're listening to every episode because
Tune in for
you
that.
just never know.
Also, a little idea that we had. We'd love to know your thoughts on this, but I have a devotional that I wrote probably back in the years of my trauma.
Yeah.
Cause
She was gripping onto it.
it's pretty good. And we're thinking of releasing that on the podcast. So let us know if that's something that you think would be helpful to you during Advent. And thank you for listening. We love you so much. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Love y'all. Bye.